Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you guys to the conversation. So today we're going to be talking about my man, Charles Barkley. Now, the question is Charles Barkley the best sports basketball commentator on TV? That's what I want to get into in this topic today. So let me just first of all slow it down and just give you a little backstory of who Charles Barkley is. Charles Barkley is considered to be one of the top 50 greatest basketball players in NBA history. He's won a league MVP in 1993. He's been on 11 All-Star teams, 11-time All-Star. He's been on 5 All-NBA first teams. He's even won the Rookie of the Year in 1985. And when he came into the league, no one really played like him at his size and with his athleticism. And as strong as he was, now Charles Barkley was as strong as a bull, according to a lot of players, and some people consider him to be one of the strongest basketball players at his size in the history of the NBA. So when he came into the league, we hadn't really seen somebody like him before, and we really haven't seen anybody quite like him since. The only person that I've really heard some people really comparing him to as of recent is Zion Williamson. But the thing is, Zion hasn't really played an NBA game yet, and I don't know much about his game for me to be able to draw that comparison. But needless to say, Charles Barkley was a very unique player, and some people say that if he was 6'6", 6'7", some people say he would have gone on to probably be the greatest basketball player, of all time. But he maximized his skills with his God-given abilities and everything he was given. He did the best of what he could, So Charles Barkley is definitely very respected in NBA circles as far as being from a basketball standpoint. And he's been, and that's why he's one of the top 50 greatest players of all time. So that's where he sort of gets his fame from. Now, the other thing about Charles Barkley is that he's a bit outspoken, and in some cases he can take it so far where he rubs a lot of people the wrong way, because Charles Barkley always tells it like it is, and he's been like that since he started his NBA career. You get the sense from him, listening to him speak, that he really doesn't give a damn what anybody really thinks, and that gives him the freedom to voice his opinions in any way he sees fit. Now, for all of you out there that may not be old enough to remember, Nike actually released this infamous commercial featuring Charles Barkley where he said, "I'm an athlete, I'm not a role model," and that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And you can imagine, because a lot of people are like, hey, wait a minute, we're patronizing your league. Our kids are buying your sports, sports apparel and all these different things. How can you come out and say something and say that you're not a role model? Of course you are. Charles Barkley didn't feel that way then, and I don't even think he feels that way now. If you see him, if you watch him on Inside the NBA, he's very outspoken, and you can tell he's not politically correct. Now, since he joined, Inside the NBA in the year 2000, now we're going on 20 years, pretty much. We're closing in on 20 years since he's been at that show. The show's won 9 Emmy Awards, and obviously you have Kenny Smith, you have Ernie Johnson, and not too long ago, I think about 5, 6, 7 years ago, they added Shaq to the mix, because Shaq was also this great, he was a really bubbly personality, he was really funny, witty when he was during his playing career, so they thought that he would have been a really great addition to the show. And I believe when he initially came, he didn't really make, he didn't make that much of an impact, but eventually he ended up carving out sort of his own space on the show. And now he's a prominent figure, a prominent staple in in that amazing thing that they have going on in Inside the NBA. But the question is, though, is he the best basketball commentator on TV? So first of all, let's talk about the people that he essentially has to go up against. Some of the best known people out there are, number one, Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless has been in the business just as long as Charles Barkley, even longer. Now, some people may say Skip Bayless is really good. Some people say he's a LeBron hater. So they have that kind of working. Skip kind of has this audience of people out there that think that he's too biased towards Michael Jordan and he doesn't like LeBron enough. So I don't think he would be able to get a resounding approval from everyone probably watching this video to say Skip Bayless is better than Charles Barkley. Now, another person out there that we have is Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith has been on the airwaves for at least 15 years or so. He's had his own TV shows. He's outspoken. He's said some things that have actually rubbed some people the wrong way. He's been suspended a few times on his show for some comments that he's made over different things throughout his career. But Stephen A. Smith is, very, very popular as well. And a lot of people look to him for basketball commentary. So some people watching this video may say, I prefer Stephen A. Smith. I think Stephen A. Smith is better than Charles Barkley. But here, Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, and Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley truly does not need those networks to be successful. They need him. Number one, before he started that show, Charles Barkley was already a millionaire. I think he earned about $40 or $50 million in his playing career, if I remember that correctly. So that's the first thing. He's always been famous for saying, I can say whatever I want because I don't work for these people, meaning I got my own money. And that gives Charles Barkley the freedom to pretty much say whatever he wants, unlike Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith, who are beholden to Fox Sports and ESPN. Charles Barkley is in a completely different, he's in a completely different league on his own. If you watch Inside the NBA, you have seen Charles Barkley tell it exactly how he feels it on pretty much every single basketball-related thing that has happened within the last 15 years. I'll give you an example. The time when Kobe was playing in the playoffs, I think it was in 2006 against the Suns, and I think a lot of people said the game in Game 7, he quitted or he pouted and he refused to shoot the ball. And Charles Barkley said, Kobe Bryant basically through that game, he refused to shoot the ball and he pouted. And Kobe actually came on the show and he told him straight to his face what he thought about what Kobe did.
And maybe we can do this now and then we can be done with it and we can just have a jolly old time the rest of the night. You said something about Kobe's performance
in Game 7.
In Game 7, and I think the term that came up was selfish. And then came a bunch of text messages, apparently, Kobe, from you to Charles and back and forth.
Right.
So now you're meeting face to face for the first time.
Well, you know what? I criticized Kobe in Game 7. He didn't like it. He let me know it. I think I probably made one mistake taking it public, but I wanted to get his side, his point of view. I have no problem with him disagreeing with me.
Not too long ago, Charles Barkley actually went at LeBron saying something like LeBron doesn't want to compete because this is when he was in Cleveland, I think in his second year, and he was complaining that they're too top heavy. And Charles Barkley's like, damn, what, do you want all the players? You don't want to compete, you don't want to go in against anyone? And Shaq was on the show at that period, and him and Shaq were going back and forth. And if you watch that exchange between the two of them, they were really shouting, like they were going at each other, and it was pretty intense. At the end of that, LeBron actually tweeted out some things about Charles Barkley throwing some people through a window and blah, 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 and all these different things. But the point I'm trying to make is that he really doesn't give a damn. He's not blowing hot smoke up at anyone's you-know-what. He says it exactly how he sees it. And that's what I think differentiates him and puts him head and shoulders above the people I just mentioned, because Charles Barkley has the ultimate green light on sports commentary to say whatever the hell he wants. And I think that's the reason why people like Max Kellerman tip their hat to him and say he's the best on sports when it's as far as being an analyst. And it's true because he says it exactly like it is. To the point where a lot of people within the sports world feel that the reason why Michael Jordan stopped speaking with Charles Barkley was because of the comments that he made regarding the Charlotte Bobcats, because MJ is a majority owner of that team. And I think that they said Michael Jordan took it personally, and Stephen A. Smith came out and said, well, if it was me, I would have, first of all, reached out to MJ before I made such a comment. But Charles Barkley didn't see it that way, and the two of them are friends, but apparently it rubbed MJ the wrong way, and he no longer wanted to be, I think he stopped communicating with Charles Barkley like he used to, because the two of them used to be really good friends, to the point where the two of them actually went on Oprah and did this like 45-minute segment where basically all they were doing is roasting each other. But it just goes to, and even in that interview, you can see that he had a special knack for being on TV, and he was just going to do really, really well on TV, even better than Jordan, because Jordan didn't have an electric personality, but Charles Barkley did. And I think it's the same thing that he had in his playing career that has brought him into his career on, and being part of the media and on TV. And I think that's what makes him the best basketball commentator on TV. So, what I want to know from you guys is, do you agree with me? Do you think that Charles Barkley is the best analyst when it comes to basketball commentary on TV? Or do you think it's someone else that I'm not mentioning? Do you think maybe Stephen A. Smith, maybe Skip Bayless, maybe it's Max Kellerman? For some people, maybe it's even Ryan Hollins. I don't know. Everybody has their own opinion. But what I want to know from you guys is, I just want to know what you guys think on this particular issue, because, moving forward, I think he's at the top of the game, but it's always good to know what you guys think about it. So once again, If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to be notified when all of our newest and hottest content comes out. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamers Pro, wishing you guys an amazing day and an amazing new year. Peace.